Stephen Smaley, the member of Public Service Union Unison and National Executive Council, and who took also a part in the recent United Nations COP26 conference held in Glasgow in Scotland. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for accepting that interview.
I'm delighted to be here.
Basically, turning blind eye to Turkey's military actions. Also, you mentioned in Middle East as well. That's quite interesting. So, Turkey's that military actions, was this a subject discussed at COP26?
No, not at all. I mean, it's one of the glaring omissions in the whole discussion about climate change and the use of fossil fuels is we don't even count the military use of fossil fuels, and it's huge. You know, you can't run aircraft and tanks and all that kind of stuff without burning fossil fuel and diesel and all the rest of it. But that's not part of the discussions. We don't talk about that. So essentially, you're allowed to continue doing that as long as you can justify it under our military. Nobody asks any questions. And given a country like Turkey, who have in the past 20 years been very militarised, have engaged in all sorts of military activity, the invasion of Afrin, the whole invasion of Rojava, the war at home against the Kurds, the invasions of South Kurdistan. None of that's counted in their targets for reducing emissions. And that's one of the fundamental problems of COP, is we don't address the fact that military expenditure is part of the problem. If we want to save the planet, if we want to cut emissions, if we want to stop global warming, we need to stop war. We need to stop investing the money that should be getting invested into the $100 billion, to the developing countries, is a tiny, tiny proportion of the military expenditure of all the big countries, Turkey included, but America, UK and Europe. If we just divert a portion of that, we would be able to address all the issues in the developing world. But countries like Turkey are allowed to go on and expend that money, and not just expending money in terms of the military war, but the tactics they employ. So you drop bombs, it destroys the environment, it creates huge amounts of impacts on the environment, and you spoil the land. So you poison the land, so you can't. Agriculture is weakened. It contributes to the poisoning of the water supplies. Particularly, with Turkey's alleged use of chemical weapons. That's a nightmare scenario for anyone who wishes to see some kind of ecological future. You can't do that whilst you have war and whilst you use chemical weapons.
What do you think should be done about these allegations of the use of chemical weapons then? What else needs to be done about it?
Well, international law says that you shouldn't be using chemical weapons, and it says that if there are allegations, they should be investigated. So the United Nations, the Council of Europe, whoever, should be investigating. Now, if these are false allegations, then we should investigate so that we don't call them out on it. But you have to investigate, and if it's found to be true that they are using it, then actions need to be taken to stop it. It's a crime. It's a crime in terms of war. It's a war crime, but it's also a climate crime as well. It's a crime against the climate. So people should be saying, right, well, we need to go and investigate. We need to go and find out what's happening in South Kurdistan. I've been speaking to some Kurdish politicians recently. In fact, I met some at the COP, and they were saying, well, they've been using it in Turkey over a number of years. They've been doing that against the guerrillas and some of the urban disturbances that they've sent the troops in. They've used chemical weapons on a small scale there. So it's very likely that they're using them in South Kurdistan. So if that's the case, and we've heard about this for a number of years, the UK, Europe, America, United Nations should be over there investigating, taking the soil samples, speaking to the people who are been burned, people whose lungs have been damaged by that, and testing it and finding out exactly what's going on there. And as I say, action would need to be taken against Turkey.
You already mentioned why the Western countries are turning blind eye, especially on the COP26 as well, that Turkey's ecological crimes. But when you look at the international conventions like Genoa Convention, plus the NATO war conventions, Turkey is part of these conventions, has been signed as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you look, Western countries are mostly still turned blind eye, keeping silence about Turkish war crimes and chemical weapons usage. Just to underline it very short, very briefly, why do you think Western countries are keeping silence against Turkey's war crimes?
Western countries are in league with Turkey, and at the moment the Erdogan leadership in Turkey, because of their own self-interests. They want Turkey as an ally. In UK terms, after Brexit, Turkey will be an ally in terms of trade for the UK. So we don't want to upset. So you can do what you want. They use the argument about terrorism. So when this issue is raised in the Houses of Parliament in the UK, the UK government's response is, well, we talk to Turkey about some of these concerns, but they've got their own terrorist problem, and they use that on every occasion simply to block it. And the reason why is because they want Turkey as an ally. They want Turkey as an ally with NATO because they see them as a bulwark against other forces, Islamist forces, for example, or indeed the forces for the influence of Russia in the region. So they've got their own imperial colonial interests to look after.
The PKK is still in terrorist list in EU and in Britain's list as well. But there is a result came out from the Brussels High Court that's saying the PKK is not a terrorist list. It shouldn't be on the terrorist list. There's a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
And it's a side on the conflict basically. So do you think this result could affect the Britain as well to take action and delist the PKK?
I would hope it does. I'm not confident that the UK government will take any notice of it because they tend not to. But I certainly think there's scope within the UK courts for that to be challenged. The PKK, is not a terrorist organisation, never was a terrorist organisation. It was declared a terrorist organisation by Turkey, and then, they persuaded the EU and therefore UK to list them as part of the global war against terror as came out, particularly after 9/11. In America, where lots of organisations were listed as terrorist organisations, and it's been stuck to ever since. The PKK is a movement, is part of a movement for Kurdish liberation, which has moved on from simply a struggle for self-determination, which I think most of us kind of understood that's what it was about, to actually being advocating radical democracy. Right? Radical peace. Now that scares certain people because democracy and peace are not in the interests of people who benefit from war. So the PKK should certainly be delisted, taken off the terrorist list, and it should be embraced as a real contributor to that struggle for peace and democracy, women's liberation, and economic progress and environmental progress within the region, and they would be a real player in that if we could get them off the list. So I would hope we can make progress on that because it's critically, the PKK's role would be critical in achieving those things.
We also earlier on one of our chats, you mentioned that keeping the PKK in the terrorist organization list is also kind of isolating the Kurdish community in Turkey and in diaspora as well.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of criminalizing the community. Yeah. Would you like to evaluate that little bit in a short?
Yeah, I think by criminalising the PKK, effectively they criminalise the entire Kurdish nation, not just in Turkey but in the surrounding countries as well, and indeed in the diaspora in the UK, in Europe. Anyone who speaks for Kurdish rights is suspect as being a terrorist, and that's incredibly isolating. We talk about Öcalan being isolated in prison. In some respects, that's a symbol that symbolises the isolation of the Kurdish people. You're not allowed to be Kurdish. You're not allowed to express your Kurdish identity. You're not allowed to use the language in a way in which any other people would in the world. You're kind of isolated. So the Kurdish people are not able to engage in democratic processes. They're not allowed to engage in cultural processes. They're not allowed to engage in international movements. So even in environmental movements, they're somehow they're unable to engage properly in that because states declare that they're part of that kind of terrorist movement. So it's a very conscious effort at root, I suppose, in Turkey to allow the Turkish state to maintain centralised control over it. But the impact that has on individuals, the families, as well as all the people, is extremely isolating in a very negative way, which is no good. There's no good parts of this. It doesn't achieve anything. It merely alienates and isolates people from making progress.
What is your message? What is your call? And how would you evaluate the struggle on the 44th year?
Well, I would give a message of solidarity to the PKK and the activists within the PKK who have achieved a recognition for the Kurdish people. Before the PKK, the Kurdish people did not exist in Turkey. They were not allowed to call themselves Kurdish. They raised that, they achieved that. So I feel like they've given the Kurds back their identity. And that's a huge achievement, and they should be celebrated for that. And I would hope that as we move forward, if they're delisted, they can bring so much to the movement for peace and democracy, not just in Turkey, but in the region as a whole, and indeed the rest of the world.
Thank you very much. Dear Stephen Smaily, thanks for joining us. Thank you for your comments. You have been recently to COP26 meetings, and you have giving us updates from there as well. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for that valuable comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you.